Welcome to the Broken Agenda podcast, sponsored by Laughing Rock Technology.
All right. Welcome, everybody, to the Broken Agenda podcast. I am Craig Stoneha. This is Tyler McCauley. This is Jimmy Klopp. And today we are talking about inflation. And we thought this would be a good dovetail since last week we did supply chain. So we thought we'd kind of roll right into inflation since the two of them are kind of best friends, apparently, at least now.
Yeah.
So I want to preface this entire podcast by saying we're going to get into some financial stuff. We're going to get into potentially even some things that may sound like financial advice. Please, for the love of God, we are not financial advisors. Do not make any life-altering or even any reasonable decisions based off of this podcast. If you get any great ideas, thumbs high, we're happy, but go talk to an advisor or a banker or a trusted hobo. I don't know who you talk to, but don't just do what we say.
Buy crypto.
Don't.
So I got to scratch my invest in scratch-offs?
No. We're big on scratch-offs.
Big on
Buy more,
Okay, good.
buy more lottery tickets.
Yeah.
Hey, before we even get it, all right, I want to discuss that for a second. But so today we're just going to hit on
That's
a couple
great
of things.
advice. That's the best advice I think I've heard all week.
I'm going to go through this in a second. But have you ever won a scratcher?
No.
Okay. Have you ever
Not a
won
dollar.
Yes.
I've won a dollar.
Oh, you won a dollar. Okay, that's all right. Was it a $1 scratcher?
I have a buddy that won 15 grand. That was pretty nice.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that guy had a good week.
Yeah.
Nice.
And he bought a house. Used it as down payment on a house.
What kind of a house did he buy for 15? Oh, a down
It was
payment.
down payment,
That makes
right?
sense. I thought maybe you got a.
Good decision, Mr. Rose.
That's,
My good buddy, Mr. Rose.
That's kind of awesome. Have you won?
I have. My dad and I invested like $100 like 10 years ago, and then we just kept playing. So it was enough to sustain us for like 6 months.
Really?
Yeah, we just kept rolling it. I did win the daily number one time. Hit the jackpot on that.
Wow.
Well, how much does that pay?
I think it was $700 for a $2 ticket.
Wow,
good
that's
day,
a
too.
that's
Yeah.
a jackpot.
Man.
That one was good. My dad was big into the lottery, and he was noticing that the same numbers were coming up each week. He's like, I know we can figure this thing out. He would look at the charts,
I'm going to figure this thing out.
and he was right. I mean, he was
They
right.
probably run the
No.
out.
There was definitely a
They
pattern.
probably run the same algorithm
They weren't cleaning the balls,
as the market.
so the dirtier one sat towards the
Dirty
bottom.
balls.
Lock it
You
up, Jimmy.
you won
This
with
is a
30.
classy podcast.
You won with 30 balls.
I went, yeah, 7-4-1.
It's the only way to win, Jimmy.
That's incredible.
That is incredible. That's actually kind of awesome.
It was kind of Rain Man-ish when he was doing it. It's like, Dad, you gotta take a break.
No.
There's a pattern.
You got to tell him to double down. How many toothpicks did I just drop on the floor? Come on, man.
The day he realized that they figured it out, he was like, sons of bitches. They got it.
And then they cleaned their balls.
Yep.
Yeah, now they were onto him. They knew.
That's a shame.
My daughter's good at the scratchers. I mean, you can't be good at scratchers, but have you noticed some people hit?
My father-in-law hits $1,000 all the time.
My father-in-law's good at it too.
Son of a bitch.
I've scratched, I don't know, maybe 100 scratchers in my life, and I've never even gotten a free ticket.
I have a
My daughter will scratch 2 and she'll win $45. And I'm like, I don't understand how this works, but
I have one in my bag that's a free ticket winner since Christmas.
do you want to cash it in and bring it in here? We'll scratch it all together.
Yeah, we
Don't
could
let
do
me
that.
touch it. I won't touch it. I'll watch.
Okay.
I can be an observer.
Well,
if I
I'm
make
not a-
physical contact with it, it immediately changes all the settings.
Maybe we should get is it your dad?
No, my father-in-law
Oh,
and
maybe-
my daughter.
Maybe we should get your daughter in here to scratch it.
Oh, well, yeah, but then she won't split the winnings with you. She's a hard negotiator.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah.
Little
No,
rascal.
she might give you your original investment back, maybe. She runs a tight ship. She doesn't put up with baloney. So I trained her well. I'm so proud.
That's good.
Yeah, I really am proud. No, but today on inflation, we're going to hit a couple of things. We're going to talk about just what's causing inflation. I mean, I think we can all agree that we're in an inflationary period right now. If you can't agree with that, I don't know, pause and then go look some stuff up and then come back. But we're definitely in a high inflation period right
Somebody told me we weren't. So
now. And if somebody's telling you that, then you should not talk to them anymore because they're liars. And it's just clearly not happening. We're going to get into some details on how we're in an inflationary period over the course of this. We're going to talk about what's causing it, how we got here. You know, does this have anything to do with politics? Is the administration involved? You know, what is that role in this thing? How does it affect you? How's it going to affect your finances, long-term, short-term, all that stuff? And then, you know, kind of, is there anything you can do to mitigate it? Which I've been grappling with that one personally. I have some thoughts, but I mean, I don't really, we'll talk about that. We'll
Yeah.
get the details on that. But ironically, with how bad it's gotten with inflation, scratchers is not a bad strategy.
Sweet.
So, I mean, does anybody want to start here? Does anybody going to get into this before I start ranting?
No, follow the agenda.
Now, you felt, so you do, I don't know if you've ever talked about what you do on this show, but I mean, you do property investment and contracting work, right?
Yeah. I own rental properties and do contracting and flip houses from time to time.
Have you felt it?
Oh, I see it. I mean, yeah.
How so?
I felt it. I've seen it. Well, I mean, with prices of goods. I mean, so I keep. This is what I was telling you at the beginning of the show. In QuickBooks, when I do quotes, I have probably 10,000 items inside QuickBooks. So if I do a quote for a project, I do every single line item, every single plumbing piece, every single board, every single component that goes in. I line item estimate everything. So every time I go to the store and I get a receipt, I come back home. When I input the receipt, I input every line item. That way, when I do my next quote, everything automatically generates the prices. And I just have to, like now, I have to verify prices, constantly. But so, like I did a plumbing, the recent plumbing job I did, I bet you every single component I bought in plumbing department doubled.
So you're saying like 100%?
It was close to double every single part that I put in there. All the little stuff, like all the little stuff, all the joints for the PVC, all the elbows, the T's, all that stuff. Like, the big long pipes, no, maybe they're up 20-30%, but it's all the real little stuff, that's where it's getting totally annihilated. And I haven't put anything in my QuickBooks that has not been at least 50% or more.
So there's nothing you're seeing that hasn't been affected heavily in the. So that's the contractor. Now you do a lot of buying in the technology sphere. Mm-hmm. What are you seeing?
Same. I mean, I think you and I were chatting about one spot where I haven't really seen an increase, but I mean,
well, we were talking. I think we only found two. It was hard drives and RAM.
And that's it.
Which, SSD drives are essentially RAM. So
yeah.
I guess they're kind of related. But
other than that, like buying a new PC at this point, buying a server, something, a full unit cost is increased.
Now, how much have you seen it increase? I mean, just say since the beginning of this year, ballpark. I'm not going to hold you to it, but because I've seen some crazy quotes go out on PCs.
It depends, 25-30% increase really? Just in cost alone. Yeah,
across the board on all computers.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. We used to be able to find not a cheap option, but a lower cost option typically, and those don't exist anymore. I mean, what we're buying PCs for now is, 20-30% higher than what we were 2 years ago, even beginning of last year.
Have we looked at Macs? Are they in the same boat?
I haven't. I'm trying to think the last time I did one.
I imagine they are.
I don't see, and I don't know enough about their pricing structure, like pre everything, because I think really the ones that I've done have been in, post-COVID times.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I obviously that's not a huge sample size. We've got somebody buying in the tech sphere and somebody buying in the contracting sphere, but those are two pretty big industries.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody has contracting needs and everybody has technology. I mean, I know I've seen it in cell phones too. We're starting to see it in the service sector too, which I think is going to hurt a lot of people. But you're starting to see it come out in cell phone bills. You're starting to see it. We get announcements from companies like internet service providers and things like that, or just they're just trying to keep track of inflation. They're just jacking up rates. I know what I want to say about what's causing it. Do either one of you want to talk about your causation here? Or
well, how about beer? What's the cost of booze right now?
Not only is beer going up, but have you seen that they're limiting how many cases you can buy of certain beers?
Yeah, like and the microbrew stuff is going crazy. I mean, I'm spending $60 on a case of beer.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
something that was. I'd say that's probably a good 75% increase. Like a $35 case of beer is now $60.
I'd rather support the microbreweries than the bigger breweries now too. So like now, I don't if I look for all the small stuff too as well. So I haven't bought anything that's been a big distributor for a long time. So, but even groceries, like how much are you seeing at the grocery store? I know we were about to move on, but
No,
like,
groceries
how's
are bad.
groceries?
Good spot.
Groceries are getting terrible.
I think groceries, I don't do it all the time. I stop and get little things here and there, but I think we're probably a good 30%.
At least
Increase.
some things like meat are over 60% up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have a chart on grocery
Why don't
items.
you pull that up, Jimmy? I think you're right. Groceries on there. Now look, all of these charts, I don't agree with all of these. Especially we have a and for anybody that's watching or listening at home, not watching, we're just showing some charts and graphs here of inflationary issues that
Is there
we're
a
seeing.
groceries chart?
First
Yeah,
tab, the first tab. Yeah, the second
second
tab. I'm
tab,
sorry.
Second tab.
Yeah.
So if you're listening to it, you're not going to see what we're talking about, but we'll describe it to you. But yeah, I mean, here they're saying 19.3% on bacon. So I love that it's specifically bacon. Like, we're going to call out bacon. There's steaks and other meats, but then there's bacon.
Yep.
22% on steak. And this is what month is this? September?
This is from September 2020 to September 2021.
Which, and I will tell you that I call BS on all of these charts, and the reason why is because a lot of this is regional.
Yeah.
So you may see internationally or nationally an average increase of 24.4% on used cars and trucks, but depending on where you are, you could be seeing. Look, I'll tell you right now, I track my KBB value, Kelly Blue Book value of my car religiously because I'm anal retentive and I track all my finances like a maniac. And my car, which is, I drive a 2015, and I've got 60,000 miles on it. And it is worth almost as much now as when I paid for it, as a trade-in.
Yeah.
Now, not quite. It's lost
But-
some value, but I mean, it's regained. God, I don't know, close to $10,000 in value over the last
Good Lord.
6-8 months. So, I mean, have you guys gone to a car dealership recently?
I think April is when we bought Shauna's car.
How'd the lot look?
We drove down to Philly to find a full lot.
Really?
So we drove from Lancaster down to Philly. Like
Lots are empty.
2 hour
Well,
drive.
I know there's one right up here on the Nissan dealer. They usually have about 200 to 300 cars on their lot. I think I called them a couple weeks ago, and they have, God, I don't know, nine cars on the lot. That's it.
Yeah.
They're begging for trade-ins. They're like, we'll take your car.
So my father-in-law works for an auction, one of the auto auctions, and he said the amount of used car, because it's all they sell at the auction is obviously used cars. He said they just fly out the door, everything from what we would consider a throwaway car to some, next to new, but just flying out the door.
Well, I mean, it makes sense because you can't get new. So the used market's the only market that exists right now. Because if you order a new car, what's the lead time right now? I think you're looking at 6 to 12 months.
I don't know. I know when we bought Shauna's car new because the used were going for pretty close to the same price, and they had a few on the lot. And that's why we drove to Philly. We had actually driven to Philly to look at a used one. They sold it out from under us when we got there, which is that typical tactic. But ended up in a new one. But they had 4 of them, 4 new Honda Pilots at the time.
I like the Honda Pilot. It's a good car.
Yeah, it's a nice car. Yeah.
So we're seeing 24.4 on cars, which I maintain is crap. Beef and steaks, they got a 22.1. I've seen that as high as like 60-70%.
I say I've seen it higher.
Now around here, we're lucky. We're in a relatively rural area, and there's plenty of private farmers around here. So if you go to a supermarket, you might see 50, 60, 70%. But if you go to a butcher, you may see zero because they're not feeling it yet. But I was just reading, farmers are about to feel it.
Yeah.
I mean, fertilizer's going through the roof, and you can't get it. So everybody's going to be fighting over fertilizer. Basic farm equipment, tractors, threshers, like all the stuff you need to run a sizable farm, can't get any of it.
Yep.
It just doesn't exist right now. And this is going to be a real problem. I mean, if you think microbrews are bad now, wait until you can't harvest hops.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, hops are now 400% increased in price.
Yeah, I'm gonna start selling my hops.
Damn right.
Instead-
Sell that in your used car.
Instead of cutting them down and throwing them in the trash at the end of the year.
Wait, what? You're growing hops just to throw them away?
Well, sometimes I get them. I throw them in my beer throughout the summer.
I mean, what, like just to float on top, like extra
Yeah,
hops?
I garnish it.
Wait, is that a thing that people do, or is this a
Yeah, you can.
This is
Okay.
my thing.
You can hop.
I
when you're doing
garnish
the
it.
ferment and stuff.
I call
too.
it garnish. It's
Why
my
don't you
beer
just get a
garnish.
hoppy beer, and then you don't have to have,
Well,
gross
because there's
vegetables.
nothing like sitting and sipping an ice cold beer with fresh hops floating in it, dude.
It's an aromatic. It's more of what it is.
It sounds like bio.
It's called dry hopping if you hop
Yeah,
beer
dry hop.
afterward. I mean,
Yeah.
that's called dry hopping.
So you
But
dry hopping your beer.
yeah, but I just do it. I call it garnish. I give out bags of hops as garnish. You want some garnish?
I don't understand people anymore. I desperately try to avoid all vegetables at all levels.
I did a pretty good job of that.
Yeah, I don't want them floating in my beer. I don't fruit the beer. I'm sure it's not like going to veggie the beer. Like that does, it's even like throw a tomato in there. That's hopping the beer. I'm going to have to try that because it actually does kind of sound good.
Well, it'll actually you get a lot of flavor. More flavor.
It's
out of
more for the aromatics.
I could see it
though,
being
right?
really good in like a
it.
blue moon.
It
like
does add some
sweeter beer.
bitterness to it. I mean, you
Yeah.
definitely changes.
Depending on the hop strain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, any of them. I mean, if you put a hop and you eat a hop, it's like, talk about bitter beer face. It'll,
Oh, really?
yeah.
I got a buddy who grows on hops. Maybe
I do it to all my
maybe
kids'
Robin.
friends when they come over. I do the hop challenge and have everybody eat a hop. To all of my friends' kids. Or
Kind
my
of
kids'
gross.
friends.
You're giving. He's like the worst Santa Claus ever. He gives all the neighborhood kids hops to eat.
There's nothing. They're just flavoring. They're just bittering.
What kind do you grow?
I have Golden Nugget and Cascade.
Cascade. That was one I always liked to use.
Oddly, they come in at different times too. The Cascade come in about a month earlier than the Golden Nugget. Kind of weird.
Yeah, I've only ever had Jumanji and Telluride and Sandstone.
For real.
No, I don't know what you people
Yeah.
are talking about.
No, he's just making up
I'm
words.
just
It's like,
saying
I've been out
Like-
of brewing for a while.
I'm
but
like thinking.
doesn't
I mean,
sound right.
I've seen hopless before, but I don't recall hearing any of those.
I can't believe you've never had Sandstone. It's great. It's
There
fantastic.
probably is a hop
The
called
Citra
Sandstone.
hop.
There probably is.
I'd like to
It's-
grow some Citra hops. All the beers I like have Citra hop in them.
Mm-hmm.
All the ones I seem to like.
Well, they're going to get expensive.
Yeah.
Inflation. Boom.
I'm thinking I did scrap a van. My engine blew in my van, man. I wish I wouldn't have scrapped it.
You're a fool. That thing's probably worth $3.6 million now.
I know.
I mean, give it a month, and you'd be able to, buy
500.
an island with it.
I scrapped it for $500. I mean, it was a
Yeah.
fully. Huh?
You probably could have. Honestly,
Probably could have sold it for $2,500.
you probably could have taken it
Probably
to auction.
could've.
And probably gotten $3,000 for it. Yeah.
Yep.
It's a weird world right now, man. Which I don't know what people are doing with them because you can't get spare parts either. So how are you gonna fix it up, and make it runnable?
I don't know. My father-in-law said a lot of these used ones go up to like New York City, Boston area.
Oh,
Guys
yeah.
come down, buy them up.
Well, you go to
Take 'em in.
junkyards and get parts and
Yep.
Yeah, that's what you have to do. You got to go scrap parts.
put them together.
Yeah, it's interesting, but I mean, so food's definitely on. I mean, even this is a pretty conservative chart in my opinion, and that's not a pretty look.
No.
I mean, a 1 year 25% increase on cars and trucks, and over 20% on meat, and that's what they're reporting.
Say three of my
This
favorite
is-
things are in the top 5.
Absolutely,
Statista. Is this a?
It's a website.
it's a website.
It's pulled from the Consumer Price Index.
Okay. These types of things usually lag too. Like they're usually a little behind. What you're feeling right now is going to be a couple months ahead of what they're reporting because they've got to collect the data. It's got to report out, collected, organized, regionalized, all that stuff. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of this stuff is just bonkers. Now, there's so many causes that are causing this though. I mean, my personal favorite is this printing money is the biggest issue, in my opinion. And you cannot just get. My favorite description of inflation is too many dollars chasing too few goods. Is the most basic definition ever. I think I've said it on the show before. And I don't remember how much we printed last year between PPP and the SBA loans and the stimulus checks and all this stuff. But I mean, that had to be about $1 trillion, right?
Yeah, I think that's what I had read earlier
Okay.
today. Something around
Ended
there.
up being about $1 trillion, and now we're printing another $1 trillion, and we're talking about printing another 3.5 trillion. So which means we just keep dumping cash into an already inflated market, which is only going to cause more inflation. You just keep adding money to the factor. It stops losing any of it. It stops having any value. You know, a diamond is worth a lot, but if you fill this entire basement with diamonds,
Ain't worth nothing.
They're not worth really anything. I mean, they're just a bunch of stones.
Yep.
So, I mean, we're absolutely just watering down our currency. I would say, without a doubt, that is the number one issue we're having right now. Is we just have an absolute. Now, usually the solution to that is you raise rates. You raise interest rates. You raise interest rates. You know, money stops moving around so much. It starts getting pulled back into the banking system. People stop spending so much. You know, commodities become worth more. But the problem is to print all this money we've been borrowing, and we can't afford a rate increase.
Yeah.
If we raise rates right now, we don't have the money to pay the interest on higher rates. So we have done exactly what every economist who is conservative over the last 30 years has told us not to do, which is print yourself into a corner.
Yeah.
I don't know how we get out of this, honestly. I mean, some people say you can print your way out of this type of situation. I don't know how that's possible. I've never quite understood what they were saying.
I feel like that's just doing the same thing over.
It is, but I guess eventually, like, I don't know.
It just
it's
balances out
like
at some point.
Space-time continuum breaks and you end up back where you started. I don't understand what their rationale is, but apparently that's a theory. Obviously, you can do austerity, but that's the political kiss of death when you start, just cutting programs and stop giving people money that you told they were going to get it.
Mm-hmm.
Or you raise interest rates, but if you raise interest rates, you're going to have to print more money to cover the interest on the money that you printed. I don't know how that works either. Like, I don't really know how do you back this truck up?
Yeah, I don't know. That's why I'm not an economist.
Great. Glad we're having this podcast. We have no solutions. All right. What else is causing it? The labor shortage.
Labor shortage, yeah.
I mean, labor shortage, you got to pay more to get people. I don't think this is necessarily a bad thing short term. I mean, I think in industries that have been wage stagnant for a long time, it's going to naturally raise, rates. I'm never a big fan of a federal minimum wage increase because I think that's an artificial way to stimulate wages. And it puts a lot of stress on organizations and it causes undue price increases and everything else. But I'm actually kind of okay with a natural wage hike. I mean, this isn't natural. I mean, we caused this. Yeah. But at least it's happening through market impact, not through, forced policy. So.
What do you think? Did you guys see all those cargo ships outside and they're sitting in the ocean?
Supply chain. I mean, yeah, we're bad.
I mean,
supply
Jesus.
chain is definitely impacting this. You can't get stuff.
Dude, there's hundreds of them just sitting, floating.
Yeah.
And all the and they were interviewing the guys at the ports. Like, he said at Christmas time they were walking around looking at those rooms. Did you see any of those videos?
No.
They were doing tours of the ports, and the guys are like, "These rooms are full. Every year at Christmas, these rooms are full and they're empty." He's like, "I have no idea what's going to happen here. This is like just unheard of with what's going on."
Well, it's
here
insane.
right
And now we're paying. These ships can't work. So products backing up in other countries that want to ship to us, because the ships can't go back to pick it up because they're just sitting there floating off the coast of the U.S. We got to still pay the ship workers. You got to still pay for diesel and for everything else for those ships to be functional. They have to eat. There's just the costs keep increasing, and we're just not getting it done. I mean,
I heard the guy was saying something. He's like, all the regulations and things that they have to do. He said he was talking. I didn't listen, or I didn't really plan on this for this conversation, but he was talking about just the regulations that have come down that are preventing them from getting these ships unloaded.
Well, the problem is they have to deal with California. And most of these are California regulations.
This is like it's like it's intentional.
Yeah, well,
it's like they're intentionally doing this.
Well, I mean, they're going to war with truck drivers. They're going to war with non-union employees. They're going to the state of California.
The truck drivers are sitting in line waiting to get the cargo.
Yep.
And they can't unload it because of
yep.
Political reasons and
yep. Well, do you see a
and
ton of tanker trucks and boats, like large freighters and everything, sitting off the East Coast?
Well, I think New York.
No, you see it in the Gulf of Mexico?
No,
it's California. I love these people are like, oh, it's a national. No, it's not. It's California. California is the worst. And I'm sorry if you're watching this from California. Your state's the worst.
Good old Pelosi.
I'm not blaming any one person. As a general rule, California just is terrible. Just absolutely horrible.
California's doomsday is coming.
You know what I would love to do? I would love to move out to Oregon and run for governor. and just turn the entire coast into shipping and just take all the shipping. It would be the richest state in the country.
It would be.
And Oregon could be a god of a state if they just kind of said, you know what, we're going to do the opposite of everything that California's doing, and we'll own the West Coast.
And just change. Yeah, every time they enact something, do the opposite, the exact opposite.
Be like, hey, dock workers, come on up here. Oregon loves you. Like, we're only across one border. Just walk north for a little bit.
But does that? But I think Oregon has a little bit more harsh winter, so that doesn't make it the most prime location for probably this.
I bet they'd figure it out if California won't let the boats in, and you want to go to the United States.
Well,
Because the alternative.
Oregon gets pretty harsh winters, and then so now you're bringing everything into a snow-ridden state, and it's got to like go out from there. So it's probably, I don't know how much of an impact it would have, but I imagine.
I mean, Oregon's not that bad.
I mean, California's ideal because of the weather conditions year round.
I mean, California's. I mean, it would be ideal if they weren't totalitarians.
Mexico could do it.
Mexico, yeah, but then they can't get it in across the border.
They say border.
The only way you can get it across the border anymore is to put it on your back and walk it across the Rio Grande. Then you can get it to America.
Take it in, bring it in Arizona.
Yeah, but you got to walk it in.
Then you have to have a some kind of border agreement, I guess. Which is a whole nother issue.
It's a whole other issue. Right? We're getting off topic here as we do. But yeah, no, this whole thing is mostly a California issue with this docking situation. And I honestly believe they just don't want to be in the dock worker business. I feel like they just feel like it's beneath them. And they're like, we're California. We don't work with docks. You know,
high society.
That's a Boston thing. You know, like I feel like they're just too haughty for it. So, and I'm like, depending on how much you're paying, I'll go work on a dock. Crap. No, I mean I don't know that for sure though. I mean,
everybody's too busy being in their own movie out there.
Apparently. I don't know about that either, but I do like that we're making fun of California. It's the beauty of being an East Coast podcast.
It's too easy.
By the time it is too easy, it's like dominoes. They're just setting them up every week. We should just do a California podcast. The top 100 reasons why California is a nightmare. And you know what? You know your state's a nightmare when everybody who lives there desperately is always trying to convince you of how great it is. Do you know anybody that lives in California? All they do is tell you how great California is. And I'm like, if you have to tell me all the time, that's a big indicator there's some problems here.
You know,
it's like the Facebook guy that's always telling you how great his marriage is. You know that marriage sucks. Like a person in a really good marriage never brags about it.
It's like trying to convince people to share the misery.
Yes.
Like, you got to move out here. It's the best.
It's awesome.
It's awesome.
We're the best. We're great. Here's a photo of me doing awesome California stuff. And I'm like,
dude,
right, sport.
It's there is so many houses everywhere. You just run from community to community to community to community. There's no space in between anything. It's crazy. Like we were in Venice, you know. We went out there the other year.
Venice Beach, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, dude, that place that's just crazy. I mean, I can imagine in the day it was a really cool spot, but now it's just people living everywhere.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there's nothing about California that makes me want to live there. I don't know why people move there.
I mean, the weather's great.
The weather,
But
nice,
it's not on
but
fire.
Yeah.
I mean, we liked San Francisco, you know, but I still wouldn't go move there. And now it's even worse. I've heard San Diego's nice.
San Diego is nice. San Francisco has really taken a shot over the last couple of years. I used to like San Francisco, and anymore I won't go back anymore. But they're one of the big cities on pooptracker.com, which is they track cities and all the places where you don't want to go because they're covered in poop.
I think it'd be pretty
which
cool.
Which is not a testament to your city. Like, this is not a good thing. And we have friends that live in San Francisco, and they can't sell their houses right now because they've basically decriminalized crime. And they literally just said, what was it, like a week and a half ago? I think it was the mayor of San Francisco.
That's
said,
revolutionary.
well, having your house broken into and having your stuff stolen is the price you pay for living in a city. This is their response to crime. And I'm like, no, that's when you get more police and you deal with the crime. Like, I don't understand where this mentality comes from, but that's a real problem. And she has homeless people that live in her front yard, and it's illegal for her to get rid of them. So they're in her property, and they have more rights than she does. She had to get a 160-pound Rottweiler because they were breaking in almost daily. And she finally figured out the only thing I can do to keep them out is if I have a dog. Like if I use a weapon, I'm liable. And I'm going to go to prison. She goes, but I have a dog and they break into my house and the dog rips their leg off. For some reason, that's okay. She goes, I don't know why. So she got a massive dog and that's the only response she's been able to do. But she's like, I can't sell my house. She goes, nobody will move to San Francisco right now. Nobody will buy your house. She goes, and we're all upside down because we all paid way too much to live here.
Yeah.
So you need to get a ton of money to break even on your house, and you couldn't sell it for half of what you bought.
Politicians should be brought up on charges.
It's nuts, and California is a mess right now, and I'm sick of hearing people defend it because
I'd like to go to Silicon Valley though.
Yeah.
I can't believe you haven't arranged a field trip for the office.
We'll make it happen. But that's how you know when a city's bad, when the big company in that city builds its own city outside. I'm talking to you, Seattle. Microsoft built Redmond, and now Amazon's they're going to leave and build their own city outside of Seattle. That's when you've officially lost as a city, when big companies are like, you know what? I'll build my own city, and I'm going to do it right.
It'd be pretty sweet to go out there and see how, because they're implementing all the automation in the stores and stuff. I mean, whether it's good or bad, I don't know, but you
I
know,
have no problem.
like the restaurants bring your food to you and stuff.
I like robots. I mean, as long as they're not trying to kill.
I like to take my kids out there and go to Silicon
You should go
Valley.
out there. Go do it. Okay, let's take a break. So we're going to take a quick ad break. We didn't get to any of our agenda. I don't even really actually remember what we talked about. I know we bashed California a lot, and that was fun. So sorry, Cali. But we're going to have a quick message from our sponsors, and we'll be right back. Thanks, y'all. We got to get back to the show, right? All right, what are you going to say? Sorry, go ahead.
Well, it's kind of show related. So you just talked about inflation. Like one of
Well, hold on. Are we back now, or is it on the record?
we can
Okay.
go on the record.
And we're back. All right. Sorry about that, guys. We took an extra long break there, but you didn't see it because you only heard one commercial. So, I mean, you're welcome. So go ahead, Jimmy. Sorry, what were you going to say?
Okay, so I mean, well, before I go into that, should we finish out with this chart and like
Nope,
get
nope,
Yeah, I
nope.
see that
our
chart's done.
Okay, moving on.
So there were things that I heard about as far as like the ways out of inflation, right? So basically, in order to get out of all this money printing, there's only a handful of ways you do it. So you either sell off all the assets in the country to other countries, which kind of screws us, right?
Yeah, we can't do that.
You use the military to start a war and steal assets from other countries.
I'm not against that,
Okay.
It's perfectly viable,
but we always do it wrong.
but we do it anyways.
But yeah, we're terrible at that strategy. Moving on.
Technological innovation,
We're good at that.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and then here's the very interesting part. You pay off other countries with printed money. Your debt. You pay off your debt to other countries with printed money.
Yeah, well, that's what I was saying before. But
So
the
all
problem
this-
is then you create more inflation.
Right. But you're also you're washing away our country's debt by printing money to other people,
The problem
which
is-
makes the other people very mad.
We're in what, $30 trillion of debt right now?
Something like that.
And what-
Small number.
If you printed $30 trillion to pay off that debt right now, a loaf of bread would cost you $8,000.
Be Zimbabwe.
Yeah, I mean, our currency would be worth absolutely nothing. We have so much debt that that's not even a viable option either. I mean, you could print money to pay the interest on the debt, but you're just going to keep making the problem worse unless you completely stop borrowing and actually implement some sort of austerity, which would take fiscal responsibility at a governmental level, and I don't see that happening anytime soon.
So I heard too. So if they raise interest rates, if they inject this money in, they say by injecting the money in and pulling it out within a reasonable amount of time, that the money being pumped into the economy to stimulate it, but then getting it back and
But what I'm saying right
extracting
now
it
is,
back out.
that's a fundamental flaw in their philosophy. Money being pumped in right now won't stimulate it. We already have a saturated market. We have tons of money in the market. Like, we don't need more money in the market. So what's happening with the stock market right now? Do either one of you guys track metrics in the stock market?
I mean, no, I'm so stuck in crypto now.
Okay, I'm a big stock market
I
guy.
looked at it.
So right now, any person worth their salt who's good at metrics and running math in the market, none of it makes sense. I mean, we're at all-time highs in the Dow and the NASDAQ. And there's absolutely we have companies that are floundering. They can't get shipments in. They can't deliver products. They can't manufacture. They're having employment problems. They're having every possible problem that usually kills an industry going on right now simultaneously, and their stock prices at all-time highs and rising.
And the price to earnings ratio are way out of whack.
Way out of whack. And the only thing that's even holding them together is they're just continue to take orders even though they can't deliver product. But eventually, at some point, people are just going to stop placing orders because they still haven't gotten their previous order. Really, you're going to buy another iPhone when you didn't get your previous iPhone? Or you just got it a month ago, you're going to buy the new one? No, you're going to say, you know what, I spent $1,200 on this thing and I just got it a month ago. I'm not spending another $1,200 on an iPhone. So this won't last. So the earnings ratios are going to go into the toilet soon. At some point, what's happening right now is we have two things. We have an emotional market, Rivian. The Rivian IPO, I don't know when you're watching this, but the Rivian IPO just landed, and it went from $70 to $130 in 2 days, and they've never really built a car. So this is an emotional thing. You've got this company that went public, and people are buying it and running up the price based on an emotional attachment to an industry, which is the electric car industry right now. But there's no actual earnings.
It's like meme tokens.
Exactly. It could be an absolute scam.
The
They could just
the
run away
meme
with their money and
tokens.
be like, aha, gotcha. The second thing that's happening is, let me ask you guys this question. If you don't want to invest in the stock market, but you have money on hand, where do you put it? Interest rates are 2.5%. Do you buy a bond?
Well, I mean,
Real estate's at the highest prices possibly ever. Do you buy real estate?
I buy crypto.
Crypto, maybe. Crypto's not a bad idea. What else besides crypto?
Art.
Which is,
Art.
NFTs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, no. But
Or precious metals. I mean,
they're not doing anything
but
right either, though.
they just hold value in the time of a drop.
Yeah.
They don't really like soar in value.
No, you're not going to get anything out of precious metals right now. There's nowhere else to put your money. So right now we have an artificially inflated market because there's nowhere else to go.
Well, stock prices are going to go up naturally just for the simple fact that they just printed this money. So the dollar is worth less. So stock
it
prices
takes more
are going to
dollars to buy the
naturally
same stock.
stock prices are going to go. This is why I don't think real estate prices are going to. They're talking about a real estate bubble burst. I just don't think it's going to happen. First of all, if the real estate prices collapse, there's going to be such an influx of money that get poured into it that they're just not going to. It's just not going to be long.
See, I disagree. I say that we are absolutely primed for another bubble burst because we've got all-time high prices. We're still selling houses. People are still buying at inflated prices. What causes a real estate bubble is an insolvent market. Buying at high prices with people that can barely make their loans. We're right back to where we were in 2006. We're giving loans to people that shouldn't get them. They're buying $600,000, $800,000 houses when they make $60,000 a year. Like, none of this math works, but we keep doing it because we want to keep that industry solvent. But what happens is now you're riding the knife's edge. So all it takes is a big market correction, or God help us, a recession. Businesses start going out of business. People start losing their jobs. It becomes an employer's market instead of an employee's market. People start not being able to afford their mortgage. They get upside down. Next thing you know, these houses go into foreclosure, and boom, you're right back to 2008. This is exactly what happened before. And we're
But
doing it again.
you've printed all this money. So the only thing that's going to go up in an inflationary period when you have all this money printing going on is going to be hard assets. So land, real estate, precious metal. The only thing that's going to hold value is going to be these assets.
No, it'll only hold value if people can still buy them. The problem is people can't buy them if the groceries they used to buy for $150 a week now cost them $400 a week, and they can either buy groceries for their family or pay their mortgage. So this is what's happening when everything else goes up. I mean, gas just hit a historic high in California. I don't want to bring it back to California, but it's the highest gas prices ever on record.
We got a gas price.
Right? And everything in our market is tied to energy costs.
Is this gas?
Yeah, but that's like a national average.
That's a national average, yeah. But everything in the U.S. economy is tied to energy prices. Everything in pretty much any economy is tied to energy prices. Mm-hmm. When energy prices go up, everything goes up. It takes energy to make everything. So even a farmer out there riding a tractor has to buy energy for that tractor. Mm-hmm. You know, he's got to heat the milking shed for the cows. So he's got everything, or she, I don't know who's running the farm, but regardless. So we've got all the recipes here for an absolute disaster, and printing money and giving it to the real estate market isn't going to help this, because printing money is what got us into this. So creating more inflation to fix a problem that inflation caused is going to cause a bigger problem. So what you're going to do is you're going to create another bubble, and now you're skipping from bubble to bubble to bubble. You might stabilize the first bubble just for it to pop and have you. Eventually, the market will demand, a free market will demand reality at some point. Right now, we're in an emotional market, but eventually logic will take back. And when logic takes back, when the numbers don't work, that's a bubble. That's what causes a bubble. Is investors say, whoa, man, I'm really out there on this GE stock. I don't know why it's worth $150, but I don't want to be the one holding the short straw at the end of this thing. So I'm going to pull my money out. This is where bubbles come from. And the only people that survive bubbles, the only way to get through a bubble, you don't spend your way through a bubble forever. At some point, you have to let the market live. So that's why I say, I disagree with that type of mentality, because dumping money into an inflated market is going to create another inflation bubble.
But if you're giving out free money, how are prices ever going to come down? How's the price of food going to drop when you've just added trillions?
Well, we already talked about everything comes from energy. So the first thing you want to do, and I will say the previous administration got this right, the first thing you want to do is create energy independence. Once you're energy independent, you're no longer reliant on outside factors that can influence the core basis of your economy, you now have step one completed. But this is a multi-tiered thing. So shutting down, they just announced they want to shut down another pipeline that feeds the entire central United States.
Yeah, right during.
Absolutely the wrong thing to do in this type of, if anything, you should be ramping up energy production right now and dumping energy into the market, because energy fuels everything.
Let's just put everybody out in the cold during the wintertime.
It's insanity to me.
Let's not do that in the summertime.
Yeah, and it won't even matter, because if you shut down a pipeline, I've read a study that says if you shut down a pipeline, it can take 2 to 24 months to get it back online. Because the energy that runs through the pipeline actually feeds the pipeline. It makes sure the seals stay lubricated and that the actual pumping stations and all of the safety measures and everything else are fueled. Like when you shut it down, you can't just, it's not a computer. You just don't hit a button and the whole thing comes back on and starts.
You got to go check everything, turn it on, check everything, run the line, fix, make repairs, dry, dead seals. All these repairs are probably going to have to be made when they.
You could be looking at years before you get that thing back online. So while we had energy independence just a year and a half ago, we don't anymore. And this happened quickly in like 9 months. We went from energy independence to.
This is why the big push for solar was happening.
Well, I have no problem with solar.
Because they knew that this was going to occur. This is why they were giving out all the. This is why this whole big.
You're saying they were planning on this, and I think all of this is to push people into solar. So the whole thing is a push for renewables. I love renewables as much as the next person, but you cannot force a market to adopt your opinion. That never works. Historically, it never works. Every single time it ends poorly. And that's what they're doing. They have an opinion that they have not sold everybody on, but they don't want to take the time to sell everybody on it, and they don't want to take the time for the market to develop the proper technology, so they're just going to cram it down your throat. And Americans don't usually take kindly to that type of business.
Yeah.
Especially not Texans. They don't put up with that crap. So, but, I mean, this is, energy, I would say, is step one. So instead of trying to save floundering, first of all, you should lock down the real estate market and be like, look, no more. We're tightening up on financial requirements for loans and everything else. You got to have a certain credit score. You got to be able to, got to have a certain amount of assets and money to put down, or you can't get a loan. That's step number one. That's how you save the real estate market. You don't save it by bailing it out. You save it by making it be responsible. You make sure that energy is domestically produced and that it is affordable and is reliable, and you keep working on a conversion to renewables, but you don't sacrifice the now for the future. You do both at the same time. You find any other industries that are truly in trouble, such as farmers with the fertilizer shortage or anything else that's going on that will affect the entire national supply chain. Those are the ones that you help right now. So, and you start working on deals to get fertilizers, and you fix the damn ports. Like, there are things you should be doing right now that would be steps in the right direction that would have immediate impact, and we're not doing any of them.
Well, that's because that's not the plan.
Well, and I'm not going to get into the conspiracy theory stuff, and I'm not even saying I disagree with you. I'm just saying that there is a right way to do this, and that's what this podcast is about, and we're not doing that. So whether you believe that this is a grand master plan, there's puppet masters pulling the strings, or whether you believe we just have an incompetent president, or whether you believe that this has nothing to do with either one of them and it's space aliens, it doesn't really matter. The matter is that the point is there's a well-documented way to handle these types of things in a reasonable society, and we, as evidenced by Rivian, are no longer a reasonable society. We have become an emotion-based society. Society cannot run on emotion. It can't. Society has to be cold and logical. Communities can be emotional, and they should be. They should care about each other, but a society needs to run on metrics. A business does. Anything that has a large organizational structure needs to be metric based, and we've lost that completely, and to our peril. And this is why we're at where we're at. Now I'm going to change the topic real quick. What's COVID's role in this? Go. I've talked enough.
What's COVID's role? COVID's a cover-up.
Damn it, conspiracy theory, Jimmy.
COVID was the. Dude, this is so stupid.
No more pale ales for you.
This is so all of it is so stupid that it has to be premeditated. There's no any kind of common sense is completely out the window with everything that's happening. You know, and COVID is just the thing that's being used as the excuse to make a gigantic mess and for everybody to maneuver and manipulate and do whatever the hell it is they're doing. To nobody would accept this kind of behavior had it not be for COVID. They wouldn't be accepting the kind of leadership that's going on, the kind of decisions that are being made. It's just, I don't know. COVID's role is,
a lot of people aren't accepting it. That is something we should mention.
Yeah, I think more people are coming out of the woodwork and stopping their acceptance of it.
Yes, I agree.
Because, at the beginning, everyone was convinced.
Well, we were all scared.
We all got to shut down. That was my favorite time, I think, ever in my life, is being able to go out on the road and nobody else was driving.
Because we were still
this
working.
This was awesome.
But we owned the world. We were essential.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great.
But you shut down the global economy for how many months was it?
It was about a year.
Oh, almost a full year.
Yeah.
And then you pump money into, at least domestically, pump money into hands. Nobody's changed their buying habits, which has been the big thing.
Well, real change takes time.
Right.
So we didn't actually change anything.
Well, that's because you gave everybody free checks. Why would anyone change their buying habits?
Well, if you're going to shut down the economy, you pretty much had to give them something to live on.
Yeah.
It never should have been a shutdown economy. And Florida has become, in my opinion, the model for this whole thing. And I don't know if I take some crap over that, I don't know what to tell you, but the idea was once the numbers came out, in the beginning you were right, we were all scared. But once the numbers came out, it was very clear, if you're under the age of 60, this isn't really a thing for you. It's not going to matter. Yes, some people may get sick and die, but some people may get sick and die of anything. I had a guy I knew who was 42 years old, just had a cancer. I don't think we should shut down the economy for cancer.
Yeah.
But I think there were segments of the population who were in danger from this. And Florida's tact was, let's protect them and let's keep everybody else living life. Yeah. And I'll tell you what, they're in the bottom half of almost every single statistic when it comes to COVID. Infection rates, death rates, everything else. It didn't really hurt them. And they actually did better amongst older people because they focused all their efforts on protecting people over the age of 60 who were in the highest risk group. And I watch the media and they bash Florida. And I don't understand it. I'm like, we did 50 different things, which is what America is. America's an incubator. Every state does their own thing and we figure out which one does it right. We figured out the recipe and then we hate the chef.
Yeah.
I don't understand that.
Well, that's because he didn't follow the
rules,
and they didn't want to have people see what Florida showed.
Well, all I know is you can't buy real estate in Florida right now. It's the hottest market on earth, and every single level. Everybody wants to be there.
Let's say,
that peninsula is going to sink. So many people on that thing.
The only rational thing that you can't say, oh my God, we got to shut the world down because you think something's going to happen. That was the most ludicrous thing that I ever witnessed in my life.
Yes, I agree.
And immediately It was just like there's not even enough information going around to even rationalize what is being reported right now. As soon as it came out, like nothing even happened. Yeah, there was little things, but what about when SARS came about? Remember when SARS was?
Oh, yeah.
And the Nile virus? You know, it was like, yeah, we were just like tread lightly.
Hey, remember swine flu?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
H1N1.
it's like
I do
tread,
swine flu.
you know, tread lightly. Hey, this thing's going around. We're not, you know, just
Don't lick
we
a
gotta-
doorknob. Get back to work.
Yeah, we got to be
no.
cautious. Like, you know, be careful. Like, we don't know really what it is, and that was way worse. You know, it's like SARS was way worse, right?
I don't know about
And
that.
then
I've never
the
been
Nile
to.
virus. Which one was the mosquitoes?
That was West.
That's West Nile,
West Nile virus.
Yeah, it was
which is
West
still a thing.
Yeah. So,
Look, there's only one I'm scared of. Ebola.
Yeah.
well, even when that one
That's
came
rare.
around.
That one scares the crap out of me.
Yeah, yeah, but even when Ebola was floating around, it was like a
Ebola doesn't
hey.
float around. We don't have Ebola in the U.S. Like every once in a while, we'll have somebody that flies into the country and there's like a small outbreak in a city, and people get a little panicky, and rightly so, because your insides melt and it's not a good look. But most of these things are not that big a deal, and I maintain a lot of this comes from the fact that we are soft. We are soft. I mean, I don't know. Like, I'm not an old man, but I feel like I'm starting to talk like one. Like, I don't know. You rub some dirt on it, you get back in the game. Like, this is not the thing that kills me. The gypsy woman told me. Like, it's,
They should have issued a national warning to say a national like, hey, if you're old, if you're got a weak immune system, you need to be extremely careful.
Yes.
But right now, we need our strong citizens of this country to stand up and be brave and keep this country going.
And
Like
I
what
even-
they did was
to some level-
what they did was nothing more than a political freaking marketing campaign.
no, it's nuts.
The whole
It's really
thing,
nuts.
the whole thing was let's take back the throne. Let's create chaos and
He's going off the deep.
I'm going off the deep. I'm going off
He was
the
doing so good
agenda.
there for a while too.
Well, I'm sorry. I think that's what it was.
No,
it was to win back the throne.
I agree.
And now they've destroyed the country.
Well, the thing that cracked me up, and this is what I remember when Donald Trump refused to implement federal rule over states on health matters because it's outside the purview of the federal government. And he got skewered for it. And that was when the first time I felt like I got slapped in the face because I was like, hold on, we have a president who's actually refusing to do overreach. Refusing federal overreach is a thing this president is doing. That is the right thing to do. Let the states figure it out. If your state's having a problem, all of you figure out what's best for you, and let's all report back, and let's all figure out who's doing best, and let's figure out what the recipe is here. And he was like, no, I'm not going to overreach. I'm not going to become that guy. I'm not going to destroy the Constitution over this thing. And they excoriated him on it. And that was just a weirdest moment, I think, in my entire life watching politics, because I'm like, I've never been prouder of a politician. I don't think I've ever seen in my life a politician say, no, I don't want any more power. I don't think I've ever seen that. And then to watch it happen and to have people be unhappy about it, I think was a wake-up call for me. I was like, I don't understand how you can be unhappy with a guy who you call a tyrant saying, I won't take this power. It's like, you should have been celebrating. Everybody should have been celebrating. Yes, that's what a leader does. A leader does not overstep their bounds. Like, let your people do it. Like, you have good people, but you have governors, and you have lieutenant governors, and you have health officials. Let them do their thing. Like,
It's fear.
When the whole
all it takes.
racist marketing
right.
campaign
You're right,
got
it's all fear.
the whole racist marketing campaign got started when he tried to ban travel to
Call it
China.
a racist marketing campaign. I like that.
Because he banned travel to China because of spread of the virus,
The
right?
China virus?
Then as soon as that happened, then
That might have been the funniest
then
moment in
that's when
politics
the
when he
whole
called it the
racist
China
thing
virus.
happened. That's when the whole racist thing happened.
No, you really gotta. I mean, yeah, there was definitely they were calling him racist over that, but I mean, you can't steal that credit from George Floyd. I mean, come on. I mean, that guy earned a place in history.
Right, but that didn't have nothing to do with Trump.
No, well, I mean, yeah, it did, but no.
But he became a racist because he banned travel to China.
Which everybody agreed with
So
until he did it, and then he was a racist. Yeah. I mean, this is the part that gets me because it's crazy. They all agreed with it. Biden agreed with it. Nancy Pelosi agreed with it. Like, they all agreed with it, and then he did it, and they all said racist, and I was like
there.
come on.
Have you ever played, what is it called, Plague? The mobile
Yes,
game?
yes.
What's the first thing you do? You shut down your ports.
Absolutely.
You shut down travel.
That's right. And what's
That's
the
why
first thing
Denmark
you do
always wins.
as the virus?
What's
first
the
thing you
game?
do? Get
Talk,
airborne.
Yep.
talk about the game. I want to hear more about this
You've
game.
never played
You've never
Plague?
played
No.
Plague?
Oh,
You need to download
It's
it.
free. Plague Inc.
Okay, tell me about the game.
Basically, your goal is to kill all the humans on the planet by building the perfect bioweapon.
Let's talk
It's
about it.
virus or
That would have been the only
bacteria.
reason for our reaction. That's the only reason that I gave it some credibility was, unless it's a chem bio warfare.
I love that you brought up Plague Inc.
That's the only way, and that was the only reason I gave a 2-week period in my mind. I was like, unless this is chem warfare, and they don't want to say it, maybe it's a biological attack. So that's the only reason why I gave clout to
Look,
coronavirus
I
for
gave him
a
a month.
couple minutes.
I gave him a month. I gave them March.
I gave him 2 weeks.
I gave him 2 weeks, and I started getting antsy, and then a month in, I left. I was like, you know what, I'm out. Stone hot out. Popped my hat, and I went to South Carolina. South Carolina didn't do any of this. I went down. I'm telling you, man. Did I ever tell you about my stay in South Carolina?
I remember talking to you while you were
Yeah, it
there.
was the greatest time in another country ever because it was not America.
No.
I'm sorry, it was America. This wasn't America.
This wasn't America.
No, like it was. I got down there and they're like, "What are you doing with that silly mask? Get that off and have a Mai Tai." Like they didn't give a crap down there, and nothing bad happened. Nothing bad happened.
Imagine that.
Nothing bad.
The
I lived
world's
down there
most
for-
deadly virus was flying all over the place and
Apparently.
nothing happened.
I lived down there for 4 months, and their infection rates are the same as everybody else. They didn't have a single mask. In fact, the only places they had masks in South Carolina was anybody that had a mannequin. They would ironically put masks on their mannequins because they thought it was funny. And most of those masks, I will say, said "screw liberals." Like it was, they were clearly making a statement with their masks. But I remember I went on a golf trip with some of my buddies, and I flew one in from St. Louis. Apparently, St. Louis is still on hard lockdown, and I have never seen an adult man as wildly uncomfortable as my buddy from St. Louis in South Carolina because he didn't know what to do with his hands and face. Like at any time, because we'd go golfing and he'd walk into the pro shop and he'd immediately start panicking looking for his mask. He'd put it on, he'd walk in, there'd be 50 guys in there all high-fiving, sharing plastic Solo cups. Like they didn't care. And he's like, "We don't have to wear a mask?" And I was like, "Dude, I don't even think they have masks down here. Like I don't think you can get them." I was like, where did you get that mask?
No, we gave all the masks to the medical community.
Yeah, because we gave them to the people that needed them, and he couldn't get over it. He couldn't do it, and that really stung me too because I'm watching this guy struggle with basically being brainwashed, and he never throughout the entire week he was there, he never got past it. He couldn't, and you'd see him like want to, but he couldn't do it. It's
But think about how easy it was to get brainwashed. Like I can very vividly remember after the shutdown going to the grocery store and I refused to wear a mask. And then within a month I was wearing a mask and I felt awkward. Like this is weird. And then it got normalized and then I just got sick of it and I just stopped wearing it. But like it just was so easy to get normalized.
yeah.
And it was just like you'd look and see someone without a mask, you'd be like, "Whoa, look at that guy. What the fuck's he doing?"
Look at that brave soldier.
Yeah.
It says
No,
no
no,
mask at the
no.
door.
Yeah.
Why'd you let him in? It's worse than not wearing your shirt.
Yeah.
I
I
guarantee
could come in with no shirt, no shoes,
I
and a
guarantee
mask.
in that like third month, if I had walked in with no pants, it
You'd
would have been more socially acceptable than if I walked in with a
Yeah.
mask. You're right.
And it was just, and I think I made that realization when I really sat down and thought, like, holy hell, I was swayed to just do this all the time. Like, I would go to gun stores because they didn't make you wear a mask. My kids loved it.
Yeah.
They're like, "We're going to a gun store. Can we go? We want to go." They give us lollipops. We don't have to wear a mask.
I will
And they
say
would talk about
I'm
it.
not a big fan of changing the Constitution in any state or federal. I just think it's a dangerous game. But one of the greatest moments of my life was when they shut down the executive power in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
When they won that election, that referendum. I mean, I literally high-fived my wife. Like I'm like this is the great, because I don't know. I refuse to accept that one man gets to decide my life.
Yeah, I'm with you.
That's a hard nut to swallow. Look, we're running out of time here.
Yeah.
I do have a couple things I want to talk about real quick. Back to inflation. I know we all want to talk about how ridiculous COVID-19 is. But a couple things worth mentioning is the most important thing to remember from a financial standpoint. If you're watching this and you're still paying attention,
You got cash in your mattress.
if you have cash, it is losing value every day. All right, so it's the worst thing you can have. And people will say, oh, you got to save. We've got inflation happening. The times are going to get tough. You got to save money. Don't save it as cash. And when I say cash, I don't mean like fat stacks of hundreds. I mean anywhere where you have cash. If you have a 401k plan and you've got a bunch of money sitting in cash instead of in investments, that money is in negative territory right now. According to the federal, released inflation numbers, you're losing about 4% a month, which is 4 cents, which means last month a dollar is worth 96 cents this month. I maintain that that's bullcrap. It's higher than that, but only time will tell. So for the love of Pete, get out of cash. Now, I will say there's a couple of things. There's not a lot of places to put money right now. Bonds are worth nothing. Stocks scare the heck out of me. I'm not going to recommend buying stocks, but that's where I stick a lot of my money. If you haven't refinanced your mortgage at this point, 2.5% is an amazing rate.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a good place to stick some money into real estate if you can get it without breaking the bank. But definitely sitting on cash is a bad play. I don't know. I mean, am I wrong?
No.
I mean, and this is not going to stop. You're going to keep hemorrhaging money on any cash you're sitting on. So that's one thing I would say is I don't really have a solution for how to hide from inflation, but I would say that's a way that you could absolutely be boned by inflation. I will agree with Jimmy 100% on this one. I'm putting a lot of money into cryptos. Although I do feel like cryptos are going to drop with the market because they're so closely tied to it anymore. I also think that cryptos have a value outside of the US dollar, and I think that's important.
And I think it's going to rebound way faster.
And I think it has the potential.
When there's a drop, they may drop together, but crypto is going to explode back.
Agreed. So I have a lot of money tied up in cryptos right now, good, bad, indifferent. I'm not recommending that either. I'm just saying that that's a place where you're outside of the current messed up system that's happening in the U.S. Plus, if the dollar keeps dropping, it's going to take more dollars to buy a Bitcoin, which should theoretically increase Bitcoin price. So
Crypto's a complicated space too.
It is.
Man, it's complicated.
Well, it doesn't have to be complicated. You just buy Bitcoin. Just ride the gold standard. You can get into Cardano and Polkadot and all these other crazy things, but Ethereum and Bitcoin is all you need to know. Yep. Those two are the two gold standards of crypto, and if you don't want to learn about
buy Coinbase stock. I think if you want to hedge inflation, buy freaking Coinbase stock.
I have a lot of Coinbase
because
stock.
Coinbase is making, dude, the money they are making is like astronomical.
You know what's going to happen, right? Their stock hasn't done as well as I wanted it to.
It's being held down.
But once we get past the emotional market, their metrics are amazing.
And they're buying crypto.
They're going to be reaping the rewards of their return to normalcy.
They're buying crypto. They're investing in crypto projects. Dude, they are going to implode.
They're going to explode. You keep saying implode. That's a bad thing.
Explode.
It's all going to crumble.
I keep using the wrong word.
I feel like you're sending the wrong message.
Wrong message.
We are out of time. I don't know. Do we have final thoughts? We totally busted this.
Yeah, like what is the real inflation rate? Because we're being lied to. Because I can't believe how many times I watch things where they're saying that the inflation rate is 6%.
Well, that report right there said last month it was what, 3.7?
Dude, that is ridiculous.
I think if you
got to scroll down a little bit, but I think it was 3.7. There's no way it's 3.7.
If you look at a dollar,
how on earth? Okay, so here
you're talking about the inflation tracker. Yeah,
the CPS 6%. That has it at 6%.
But this is the federal.
Yeah, but what is
3.384?
That's gas prices.
Oh, that's
just
just
gas.
That's just increase in gas prices.
That makes more sense.
Yeah,
fair enough.
What are we looking at here, Tyler?
So if you stay down at the bottom,
so
6%. 2020 versus 2021 gas prices. So retail gas prices, meaning what we pay at the pump.
February, March. So they started at 242 in January.
Yep. And
now they're at 338.
So they've gone up basically $1 in.
So that's a 35% increase approximately.
What was it last year? Does that say 224?
It was 263 in January. 240.
The number right above the 334.
A year ago was 224.8.
224.
Yeah, 225. So it's gone up over $1 in a year.
Yeah.
So
Which
that's-
I'm fairly positive that's unprecedented. I don't know that I've ever seen a
30.
$1 increase in a single year.
Well, let's look at October all the way back.
Yeah.
294, 270, 224, 330. Up here in 2014.
You
it
got to go all
was-
the way back to 2009, and I saw an 80-cent increase up there. But I think that's the highest I've seen differential for 1 year. So that is the largest differential in. I can't claim this definitively, but possibly in history. In prices over a 1 year period.
Yeah.
That's almost a 30. That's got to be close to 30% right there, right?
But don't worry, inflation's not real.
There's no inflation.
Well, that's just gas.
It's-
And I'm telling you, I went to the store and I bought products that are doubling in price.
Well, and I think that's tougher to track because you also have to take it. You'd have to do a true 1-to-1. So you'd have to find mayonnaise, for example. Mayonnaise packaging has shrunk over the years. But
Exactly.
you still pay
That's
the same
what they're
price.
Yeah, but
doing.
they usually run the pricing per ounce.
That's
They
what
don't
they're
usually
doing.
run it by packaging. So they usually price per ounce in this stuff, or like lumber, they're going to price based on specific things.
Trying to remember what I was just looking at because I didn't clean my pantry out, but I had something from a couple years ago. Same price, around the
What
same
was your
price.
mayonnaise?
4 ounces less.
Mayonnaise is good up to 15 years after its expiration date.
I'd be
As long as it's
funny.
unopened. Yeah, I'll say you're
I'm
fine.
kidding.
But
I would.
I forget what it was, but it had reduced the ounces.
Look, this is
Yeah,
and
they're
But we're
downsizing all the packages, keeping prices the same. You're getting 60, 70% of what used to be in there. I mean, it's
yeah, that is a good point, though. I mean, look at
it's-
cereal boxes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They
Yep.
probably decreased by
Everything.
50%.
That's what I think. It
that's
was.
how they're
So-
hiding it. They're
Remember
hiding
when,
it
Remember when
by
they tried to go to the 8-ounce sodas?
Yeah.
And people just stopped buying sodas. Like, I think they forgot that men have hands that
Hands.
are large.
Yeah.
And have you ever picked up an 8-ounce soda can? It feels like if you don't daintily hold it, it's just gonna crumble in your hands. Like it is way too. I don't even have huge hands, but like Tyler's got bigger hands than me.
Too easily comparable to a can of tomato juice.
Well, yeah, and I don't want to drink.
That's-
I
I
don't
don't
want to
want
drink a
that.
soda pony.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
I don't even drink soda often, but I do. I want a minimum of 12 ounces, preferably 16 or 20.
With my 1.5 cups every time.
It's exactly. So,
So what do you,
but no, you're right. It's a tough comparison. Was that your final thought, or did you have a final thought?
No, I don't really. I think we covered.
The only thing I would say is final thought: the ultimate difference in the sexes, the sniff test. Talking about mayonnaise, I'd eat 50-year-old mayonnaise if it passed the sniff test.
Oh
If
yeah,
I open it up and I was like, that seems fine.
yeah. I start with the sniff test and then I taste a little bit.
Well, I had a piece of steak and a potato from a restaurant that was in the fridge from 2.5 weeks earlier. And I pulled it out, I put it in the microwave, and Lisa was like, what the hell are you doing? And I was like, I'm going to eat steak and potatoes. And she goes, that is 2.5 weeks old. And I was like, I sniffed it. Seems solid.
It's still,
Yeah.
still
I was
good.
like, there's no fuzzy stuff
There's
growing
no
on it,
slime.
and there's no weird slime, and there's no weird smell. I was like, I think we're okay.
we
You know what? And we were. We were okay.
yeah, really? Imagine that.
I mean,
Being okay
yeah,
in the time of such craziness.
it's fine. It's fine.
We got to the point where I have my own refrigerator, so every time things get old, my refrigerator gets stocked.
I'm fine with that.
And my own refrigerator in the garage and everything that moves out there. That's all the outdated stuff.
You mean the good stuff?
Yeah,
That's what you got to age.
it's aged. Yeah.
Age that food.
Yep.
Age that penny Alfredo. Really let it sit out there for a while. Get rock hard so you can pick the whole order up with a fork.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it. All right, we are way over time.
Well, hey, before we close, what do we think the real inflation rate is right now?
Man, I see they do it monthly, so it's tough to tell because we're looking at numbers. Like when we say like 30, 40%, you're talking about since last year. So I know I call that BS. I would say it's probably closer to 13% in my opinion. 10 to 13%.
Based on what?
Just based on the research I've done and
From like what? 13% from when?
from a year ago.
From a year
Over
ago.
last year. Like that. I'm sorry, month over month. So I'd say from
So
a
you
year
think
ago,
13% from last month?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm talking a year.
Over a year, I'd say we're probably at 50 to 75%.
See, that's how they're deceiving people. giving them a month over. Oh, last month inflation's only up like 3%. Because last month it was up 4, and the month before that was up 3.
Yeah, but here's the thing they don't tell
Next thing you know, it's like,
do you get a 3%
30,
raise
40,
every month?
50% later, here we are with the freaking news.
No, the average raise of an American is 2 to 4% annually. So if your inflation rate's at 3 to 6% monthly, we're all gonna die.
Yeah.
Like, that's not gonna end well. So, or get a victory garden going or something. Like, this is not a good scenario. Anyway,
So you over the year, what do you think you're at? What do you got, Tyler?
I don't.
You don't
I
have.
don't have anything.
What
No.
do you got to say something.
Shit's just expensive.
I'll put it at 50.
I'm saying about 30 to 40.
Okay. You might be more accurate. I still say it's a lot. Guys, we got to go. People need to leave. They have lives. Everyone, thank you for joining us. Tyler, as always. Jimmy, you're a wild card. I'm Craig. Have a great night.
Hasta la vista.
The Broken Agenda Podcast. Sponsored by Laughing Rock Technology.